This here's Lenore Zan, and you're watching Fandoms.
And welcome to Fandoms, a show from every fan's point of view. We're glad that you could join us in the midst of watching Doctor Who since it just recently dropped. And I may be regretting saying that for the fact that you may just leave this show
I gotta
to
go.
go watch it. But I promise you the show will be worth it. Will, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm not watching Doctor Who at the moment. Waiting
Yeah.
until later.
I appreciate you. And again, we're going to give the topic this evening as much time as it needs, but then we're also not going to draw it out like Will and I tend to do. And so we're going to go ahead and just jump in and get started. We have three great guests with us. Unfortunately, Jasmine could not join us. It was a little bit of a discrepancy of Eastern versus Pacific Standard Time. And again, when you're messaging through Instagram, it happens, but we'll definitely be having her on a show in the near future. So let's go ahead and just get started by introducing, and I'm going to look away for a second as I bring people on. First of all, this is a guest we had on just a little under a year ago. I made friends with this guest at the Good Morning America kind of the surprise where they sent us to the Guardians of the Galaxy premiere. And instantly my son, my wife, and myself fell in love with her while we were sitting in the green room. She is the founder of the House of Afros, Capes, and Curls, does an amazing Juneteenth steampunk party. Yeah, I'm going to let her just go ahead and say, what she does, because I can never do her enough justice. So Jade Rogers, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Oh, absolutely. And Will, this is you met before the show started, but this is your first time meeting Jade. And honestly, if you don't know about Jade and her work, I highly recommend. I believe it's houseofafroscapesandcurls.com. You can kind of see stuff
afroscapescurls.com.
Afroscapescurls.com. I think the House of takes you to the merch store, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
But yes, so you have recently something coming up in the next month, and you want to just go ahead and share about that real quick?
Yes, the Juneteenth Steampunk Tea Party. It will be our third Juneteenth Steampunk Tea Party. It is a celebration of Black Victorian excellence. It is a full-service tea party with a string quartet, an Afro-punk band. This year we have a solo pianist, a harpist, a female-led BIPOC circus coming in from Chicago, murder mysteries, scavenger hunt, food, sweets, and of course tea, and portraiture. Everyone gets their portrait taken by a professional photographer. So that's the Juneteenth Steampunk Tea Party, and it is in a castle this year.
And it really is cool. Last year, I don't think I saw the tea party from this last year, but I remember when we were in the green room, you had the yearbook from the year before for 2022, and it was not only was it really cool just to see how excited everybody was, and it was from everybody from different walks of life, but at the same time, it was so well done. The book itself was something that you kind of, I think I remember just like you passing it around, and it was just it was a really cool book, and so I wish, and I've said this before, I wish there were more programs like this throughout the country. I'm glad there's something like this in Nebraska, but at the same time, like it's something that does need to get like moving on. And I love how the fact on the website you still have where it says that's on Good Morning America. So
yeah. We do events, we have community engagement activities, and we have educational things for adults and the youth program. The new book from 2023 will be available at the end of the month. And the book that you saw, the pictures from this year's book are incredible. People really stepped up because they knew that they were going to be in a book. So everyone's costume got tremendously better.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
That's awesome. We have a lot of activity in the chat here. My wife is saying hello.
Hello.
There's a lot of people. Not just my wife. Looks like Vigilante Vibes is saying hello. There's a lot. Anytime you come on, people love you. So I'm glad to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Also with that, we have another guest with us that is going to be on the show, just talking about favorite female characters, strong female characters. She's actually the reason why the show is titled Women of the Worlds. I messaged JJ and asked her if she had any alliterations that would not either sound like, demeaning, and she's like, I'm running on like low energy, and so she sent me that one, and it was better than what I was coming up with. So that's gonna go. I know you're Carly Kieran, Lady Dragon JJ, formerly Cat JJ, and we just were able to run into each other the last 2 weeks at Chicago, and then I realized you went to California and went to Disney right after that.
I went for the Star Wars night, and my birthday falls on Star Wars Day, so it was like a perfect opportunity to take a trip and like meet up with some friends. And I don't know, like when I went to Galaxy's Edge, the child in me kind of healed. I don't know. I'm like, you're a grown woman crying next to a fake Millennium Falcon. What is wrong with you? I'm like,
I can only imagine.
It was nuts. It was crazy.
You were super excited at C2E2, like just like we're saying talking and just the joy you had when you saw certain cosplays. I can only imagine what it was like actually going to Galaxy's Edge.
I don't know, like we kind of split apart later. Like when I was leaving the building, Daenerys cosplayer was on a staircase, and she made this huge dragon. That scene where she says dragon is on the slave and Dracarys and burns everybody. That episode. So she's like holding Drogon like this right above her head. And I'm looking at her. I'm like, I was nearly on the verge of tears. And like the girl followed me, and I'm like, it was like a mutual fangirling moment. It was great. It was like one of the best moments of my life. So if she ever sees this, just so you know, that was made my whole year.
and here's the fun tea that I get to share, because now I know this. After meeting your husband, and for anybody who wonders, yes, he's real.
Yes.
He's the one that got you into Game of Thrones. Everyone, I mean, you're known one for book talk, for literary stuff. But Game of Thrones and Dragon Lady, I mean, let's face it, Lady Dragon JJ. But he got you into the books first.
Because he read them first. So
yeah,
he loved it, and he thought they were going to all come out. Like we were reading this such a long time ago. And by the time we both caught up, it's like, oh, what now? And it's been 13 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, our third and final guest for the evening. She has something coming up this next week. You know her as Movies and Tea, or Sarah. She will be graduating this next week. So Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Do you have any idea what's going to happen in life after graduation?
Hopefully a job. That is the main goal. I mean, like, I got my bachelor's, now this is my master's. So it's like, okay, time for the world, I guess.
You got this.
Oh, you got it. Yeah.
Congratulations too. It's a great achievement.
Thank
and this
you.
is a master's program, right?
Yep.
Yeah, much smarter than many of us. So you're good. You got it. Master. What was it? For people like me, like in college, I learned more outside of the classroom, and it was kind of like the idea of you call yourself a jack of all trades and the master of none. So good on you for sticking with it. I'm just gonna say it. Will, you can come back now if you'd like.
Oh, it's not like I was hidden in the closet. I just want to make sure everybody got their propers. This is a very, very full dais, if you will.
Oh, exactly.
But in a good way.
We didn't do any of the prep things, so I'm just going to say two things because I realized I didn't do any of it. So real quick, if you're watching here, you can always check us out at the Nerd Initiative website. You can also go here to check out new comic book reviews every Wednesday. But there's also movies and streaming that's being reviewed as well as a little bit of wrestling that's being dashed aside. And we're going to be seeing some more stuff coming down the road, including some tabletop role-playing games. So if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, or anything like that, that content will be coming shortly. And we're looking forward to being a part of that. If you'd like to join our newsletter, be sure to just check us out there. That gets you in the know every 15th of the month, which means I have to scramble to get the newsletter ready. You'll be knowing about what stuff is coming up in Nerd Initiative, whether it's movies, reviews, or any like videos that we're doing that will be coming soon. Please remember to help us keep the lights on by checking out our merch store. You can always find amazing things like this hat that I'm not currently wearing right now, only because I comb my hair. And so we're going to go with that. And then what I'm also very pleased to announce is that we do have a existing podcast that is joining the Nerd Initiative Network. It is an all-female led Star Trek podcast called the Acting Captain Podcast. They were able to move over to us. And so if you'd like to know more about them, that takes you to their card. A new episode will be coming shortly. There are 12 episodes that you can already check out that they've had from before, but they're currently in the editing to drop the next new episode, and super excited to have them. Really, really great team. And of course, Star Trek stuff we don't really talk about on here that we need to do, since it's fandoms, it's everything. And yes, we do love Star Wars, but we do like Star Trek as well. We love Star Trek as well, I should say that. But with that said, Will and I are going to try not to talk very much this evening, because this evening is for you guys. You are, and again, you're the three that were able to join. I put out a net to a lot of content creators and people that I know that are just great at talking about the sphere of genres that you enjoy, that you're amazing people. And again, Jasmine would be one of them. Pooja was not able to join us this evening. We had a scheduling issue with Fantastic Frankie. She was going to join us as well. But we're hopefully going to have her on the show at a later date. But the topic is the women of the worlds. And this is throughout fandoms. And if you saw the thumbnail, there are lots of strong female characters that are represented. And we wanted to know what your favorite female characters were and why. So we can start from left to right if you'd like.
I don't know my left from my right, man.
Is it me? Am I the driver?
Yeah, right.
I'm in the middle.
It's an
I'm in the
entire
middle.
grid.
I'm on the right.
That's so funny. Oh boy, where do I start? Do you have 3 hours? I'm just kidding. I mean, I had to. Like, it was like, she's my everything. I love Daenerys. A Song of Ice and Fire books, I know they are written by old white men and they're quite problematic and not really, they're very violent. But they also happen to have some of my favorite female characters in fiction, including Daenerys, including Catelyn Stark, Sansa, Arya, Cersei Lannister, you name it, and a bunch of other minor characters. So for me, they are very special. And on top of that, if you follow me for any amount of time, you know how obsessed I am with Scarlet Witch, with Wanda. My childhood heroes have always been Storm and Trini from Power Rangers and Sailor Moon. Like, those are the heroines that I grew up with. So I've sort of been all in the fandoms, if you want to put it that way, since I was a kid. So it's just a matter of, collecting different pieces of, different worlds, I guess. You know what I mean? So like, A Song of Ice and Fire is a bit more adult, so it kind of fits into the realm of what I'm doing now in the mind space that I'm at. So yeah. And then you have Star Wars, which, my goodness, where to start there? I'm very drawn to like the villain, I guess, Star Wars women. Like, Asajj Ventress is my favorite character in Star Wars. I love Trilla from Jedi Fallen Order. Let's see, Rey also. I just absolutely love her. I know that character is a bit contentious, but she's one of my favorites. Obviously, Leia and Padme was the first female Star Wars character that I felt attached to. I just saw the actress that plays her at Disneyland, and I could not stop crying. I don't know what happened. I was with my friend, and we were just gushing. She just sat there on her throne in the costume, and was smiling, and these little babies with their little like Anakin hoodies and like little hoods, Jedi hoods, came up to her, and I was just like, I don't know what happened. I was just like streaming tears. Like the profound impact that the Padme Amidala has on me, it cannot be matched. Like I felt that way, like I did with the girl that cosplayed Daenerys in Chicago. It was like such a such a mix of emotions over these two characters that have inspired my entire life, my young adult, my adult, and all of that. So, yeah, in short, brief summary.
Jade?
Okay, so I have a short list, but since you brought up Daenerys, Daenerys is on my list, seasons 1 through 5.
Yes. Yes. Canon books,
that's
yes.
the caveat.
Sorry, I just had to come.
And the books.
I'm sorry to come in and interrupt typical male fashion, but I completely agree because the moment JJ said Daenerys, the only thing that went through my mind is that, you know, with having the source material on hand, she was an amazingly strong and well-written character. And the minute you got into the unknown of season 6, it was just like, wow, talk about being completely tone deaf, guys.
I can go into heavy detail.
I bet.
There's a whole story about the Daenerys Targaryen's change in the latter seasons, and JJ and my conversation, we hashed it out again in Chicago.
We did.
I was completely like, I was feeling it, but then at the same time, like she asked the question in a way that I felt like if I said the opposite, I was gonna upset her, and so I thought I answered the way I thought. Lesson then, if you answer the way you think somebody wants to know, you're wrong. Don't do it. Just be honest. And I learned that lesson very quickly. But you know, I think Will, you had a good idea. We're gonna pop off screen. We can turn off our cameras.
All I asked was if you thought it was organic, if it felt natural in the story progression. That's all I asked. I can't believe that was that triggering, that question. They had to be like, oh, she's going to Dracarys me here. I gotta, you know.
No, I thought my mindset was completely off. Like I was like, this happened way too fast. And I'm thinking, but she's read the books. I don't know how far the books went. Did it make like, am I missing something? And then I was just like, you know what?
So do you know the part where she finally climbs on the dragon out of the Daznak pit when they're attacked? Do you remember that scene? So that is the last that you see of Daenerys, and then she's lost in a desert, and there's a whole bunch of like foreshadowing in that desert in her dreams. She has a miscarriage too, like which is
Can I interject real quick? Yeah, I'm like watching Game of Thrones for the first time. I just want to put that out there before we get spoilers.
Jay, we will come back to you. I'm so sorry we hijacked your time.
That is books only. Books only. I promise. This isn't on the show. So
Okay.
I am so sorry, sir. I really am.
No,
I assume everybody has seen it. Everybody's as old as me.
Watch the Red Wedding and then just stop.
I wish I could stop you from watching. I would do anything right now. Just kidding.
Well, how far are you?
Not far at all.
What
I'm trying to watch Clone Wars and Game of Thrones at the same time, so I'm on season 1 for both. I'm like not started. Yeah. I haven't had
some time before you're disappointed.
Yeah.
You get lots of time.
Canon event. I can't stop this from happening. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You're good for a while. Check back in. Before the end of season 1, check back in, make sure you're all right.
I would love to hear your thoughts after, like when you get to it. Like,
well, Jade, back to you.
Okay, all right, because I had to do Daenerys because you know that's my girl. Seasons 1 through 5 and the book. My list starts with Wonder Woman because I remember as a child having a Wonder Woman costume. That's probably, I started cosplay as, you know, as a toddler, I think. And I remember, I believe that they took my costume away and said that it had been lost because I had to wear it all the time. I think my mother let me keep the gauntlets because I just felt like I needed to be as powerful as she was. So I needed the whole suit. I needed it all the time. and I had the underoos, I had the costume, I had the kit, I had everything, and I still have gauntlets. So I have not grown up. I have a huge picture that my mother got me of Wonder Woman. So yes, Wonder Woman is where my list starts, and for many years it's Wonder Woman and Uhura. She was a Black woman on television. That is before my time. I'm not quite that old, but I have I had older siblings that were all sci-fi nerds, and so I grew up with Star Trek in the house. I remember watching it very, very young and always. So she was an important figure because she was a Black woman in space and continues to be an important figure for me. So Uhura is second on my list, just under Wonder Woman, and then Storm, because
Yeah, it's Storm.
why not? She's it, she's
She's
everything.
She's an amazing
She's
character.
absolutely everything.
Omega level goddess.
She's an icon.
Right. And fortunately, I feel like X-Men 97 is now doing her power justice, because I don't think she's ever really been treated with justice, the amount of power that she actually has in any visual representation other than the comics. So I'm glad that she looks more powerful, because she is powerful. She controls the weather. She controls the elements. Like she's
getting her
Storm.
flowers.
So-
It seems like she's getting her flowers right now, and it's so great to see that.
Yes.
When the costume
yes.
changes, and I know like when they
Mhm.
benched her a little too early, I was like, oh no, what's happening? And then like
Yeah.
as a trust the process, and she's so
Mhm.
special. As a kid, I remember watching her like the 92 version with the big white
Mhm.
hair and like the classic outfit, and she's just
Yeah.
very special character.
Yeah.
I actually have a question for you when it comes to how Storm was originally depicted at the beginning of the season. There was some talk online about how giving her the mohawk was trying to give her more masculine features. Did you feel anything of that or at all?
No, that's comic accurate. That's taken from how she's already been depicted. And no, I didn't see that as being masculine.
She
No,
was hot as
not
hell. I
her.
was like,
Right.
what are we talking about here?
Yeah,
No,
no.
I just was curious because a lot of
No.
people were. I saw people talking. I think maybe I was just on the wrong side of the internet at the time.
Wrong side of
But-
the internet.
Yeah.
I'll take
Come
that.
back.
No, I think that because I've never even thought about it, because that's how she was represented in the comics. There's a whole line of her just having the mohawk, and the mohawk is hot. Like she's Storm.
She is.
Mhm.
Yeah, I understand the criticism, and I understand the criticism and where it could go, but I don't think that was the intention for that character and for her, and I don't think that it was depicted that way.
Didn't it look also like the way she was dressing? They were definitely leaning into the punk of it all, but a rock
Mhm.
and roll punk kind of a look that she was doing. And then after she gets her powers back, it's like the hair changes, the costume changes, like everything is sort of elevated onto the next level. Her power, her mindset, her appearance, and all of that. But I love the mohawk. I've loved it in the comic books. I loved it in other I loved it. Thought she looked great.
Because the clothing for her, it's a representation of where her mind is. She doesn't care about as much. So her clothing and how she's treating herself is not with the same level of care that she looks on another dashing day. Like
Right.
descending down in the air with the hair flowing and the cape. She is in a very different place because she's just a normal human at this point, and so she's got more of an edge, and baggy clothes and holes, and cut off shirts, and she just is a very different person.
That's a great
I
way to
never
see it.
problem with it.
No, absolutely. I love Storm. I think between Storm and Rogue were my favorite characters on the show, and I'm loving seeing that both of them are getting more time and more, more fleshing out. Sarah, what are your thoughts?
First off, I love Storm. I was gonna put Storm on not like last on my list, but like kind of last in chronological order. I was gonna kind of copy Jade there, but I absolutely love Storm, and I love her character. The moment she came on screen, especially like in X-Men '97, I was like, oh my god, she's a badass. And I love her immediately. No ifs, ands, no questions about that. But I would say growing up, I think the first person who I saw in like a fandom world was Leia. And initially I was like, oh, she's, just like another princess. But then she was like, she hit it off with a bang with like Han and Luke in like that trash compactor scene, like right before that. I was like, okay, she is also a badass and I love her too. And like her, like embracing her role throughout the trilogy, I think was like, there were some moments that were like definitely very iffy and I didn't know it at the time, but like rewatching it now, I was like, maybe for the time that was okay, but not, I mean, like it wasn't okay for the time, but it was what it was. Yeah, but I thought she was a great character. And then I think directly following her was Toph in my life, and I was like, Toph Bayfong.
Man,
I just finished watching it too.
Yes. She has so much going for her. She's spunky, she has attitude, but she also has like this heart, not only for like her elements, but for her friends. And it's just like a beautiful dynamic that she has with everyone on the show, whether it's like aggressive or not. And I think she has like a very well-rounded personality that I personally believe like exemplifies a woman, because usually women are portrayed as like very, empathetic and caring, which is the case, but we can be strong, we can be passionate, we can be like aggressive if we want to. And I think she had that intersection consistently. Yeah.
Toph,
I mean, if we're just choosing
example.
3 characters, I guess those would be my 3, but I have so many more.
I love what you said about like, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna add to Toph because I just finished watching what you said about her embracing earthbending. Like she's so proud of it. Like you don't see that often. Women being really, she's a young girl in this case, like embracing, like I'm good at this. Like this is mine. I'm the best at it. And she'll tell you like straight to your face. Mm-hmm. I found that so refreshing about the character, because usually there's a reluctance. There's like, oh, maybe I should like not show it too much. Like I don't want to oversell it. But like Toph is like, no, I'm the best earthbender in history. And like my favorite part about the character, just embracing that power. I love, yeah. So I was so happy
that one scene when she like locks in the guy. Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. I got goosebumps.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to ask, because I've not gotten through the Netflix live action On Purpose. Does she show up?
No, she's a season 2 character.
Dang. Okay, well then I'll just keep going slow then. I love Toph. I love Toph because she never needs saving.
I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, like even when you think she needs saving, like same with like the exact same scene when she's locked in that box and she's getting like captured. You think like, okay, one of her friends is gonna come rescue her. No, she's like, okay,
no, I'll figure this out
outside the box.
Yeah, in the box, thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
She figured it out. Probably one of the best moments in that season. My favorite.
Yeah. Super cool.
Now, there's always been a depiction of female characters throughout, movies, television, whatever else, and we're more so seeing a growth of properties that are allowing for strong female characters. And there have been strong female characters throughout, let's say movie history and whatnot. I told you guys before we started, I think my first encounter of like a strong female or female lead was like Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley in the Aliens franchise. And of course you have Linda Hamilton that was, Sarah Connor through the Terminator franchise until it got terrible. And so you have these characters, and sometimes when you have writers, and it was interesting, you said earlier, JJ, about like George R.R. Martin being this, bearded old white guy that's, writing these female characters. Where do you think, I mean, let's face it, Hollywood, television, comics, even, they don't always get it right at the start. And it's kind of learning how to properly represent, female characters, female leads, female heroes, and even female villains at the same time without it being too tropey. Where do you think, was the best example for you that you saw like a really strong female character that was depicted well, that didn't have a lot of tropes? Or even, if you want to go the opposite end, what female characters do you think were pushed to be these strong characters, but they had too many tropes to where it turned you off?
Well, see, this is what I want to discuss, sort of this term strong female character. I think it's been bastardized a bit throughout pop culture and throughout fictional medium, because when I hear it, I'll be honest with you, it kind of makes me squirm a bit. This assumption that, and don't take this the wrong way, like I have a reasoning for that. Like when I hear a strong female character, they always assume, oh, she's tough and she can stand against the boys and she has powers. End of story. She's a warrior. End of story. That's it. Like it's a reduction to a trope or two, like you said, but like we know what a strong female character is. For me, a strong female character is, for example, is Skylar White from Breaking Bad. That is a very good female character, very well written female character. To me, she's a strong female character. No powers. She's not perfect by any means. Carmela Soprano, I would say, like even those earlier, like when you push back into the premium television, like those women are problematic. They're not great. Like they're not good people, but they stand on their own. So you have to kind of ask yourself, what do you consider a strong female character? Is she combo of a trope or two? Is she just, let's say Wonder Woman, who you always see, she's strong, she's beautiful, she's noble, she wants to save it. You know what I mean? Which is one of the reasons why I kind of enjoy the first movie so much, because she does fall in love and there's a romance there involved. And I think Patty Jenkins said, like, I want her to be a fully realized character, that she can have love and she can be sensual and feminine and strong and all of these different things. Because sometimes, like, particularly male writers will strip a lot of parts of the female character and just make her tough. Do you know what I mean? So, like, what do you consider a strong female character? I guess is the question here, more so than anything.
So I can definitely give you a little bit of insight. Now, again, like I said, the first encounter of them on in like media again were like Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor, but I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I grew up in a single parent home. My mom had to pick up and be mom and dad, had to have a full-time job, had to do all these things, was in a position where, she was tough when she had to be tough, but she was there, to be there emotionally for me, supportive, oftentimes had to go through a lot of, opposition from men for being a single mom when it wasn't her choice. And so she did what she had to do. And so I don't always think of like strong female character like Wonder Woman or, a soldier of any sort. I think of a strong female character as one that, she's exactly what she has to be and what she needs to be for herself. And then at the same time, you can show that she may also give strength to those that are around her as she needs to. It's very much that self-confidence, that self-understanding, being self-materialized without becoming what I would almost think is like being cartoony, where it's, they overcompensate. She can't do this unless she's got this issue or this moral problem down the road. Whereas you can be what I would think a strong female, and that being, confident and being able to do what you have to do and, be there, but also have more than just that one thing going for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I mean. Like, what do you consider to be a strong woman? Is it Ellen Ripley's muscles, or is it?
No, it's always been my mom. So my mom has always been the example of a strong female. So for that's always where it's been for me. So
I see one of my best friends in the chat, Kari. She mentions Mariko from Shogun. Perfect example.
And even though I haven't been asked, I think my definition because I'm very particular in this because I am, well, let's just say I'm a little longer in the tooth. So I have had my frustrations having conceived of myself as a writer in certain points in my life. And I've always defaulted to asking my wife about, if this is the situation, what is the real female perspective? Because I never want to come off as someone that's writing, creating a character that is a woman that's definitely written by a man. And that's why I feel a strong female
Yeah.
character falls under the definition of one that is both fully realized and doesn't come off as having been written by a man. That's the most basic way I could define it, because you mentioned Skylar White, an amazingly written character. It's and I think that benefited from the number of women that worked on that show, both in the writers' room and producing and everything else.
Kim Wexler too, like in that realm, like
Mhm.
that's a
Oh,
great, that is
man.
a strong female character right there.
Mhm.
Like in the best, like when I say strong, I mean that in a best possible sense.
Yeah, so that's my hot take, because there are female characters I like, but like especially in media, I think I always tend to gravitate to the things that I saw when I was a child. So growing up, there was the Wonder Woman television show. I'm not saying that was the best representation of a female character, but when it then carries over into like Princess Leia, I always thought was a wonderfully strong and well written, to a certain degree, female character. There are flaws there, but again, feel that's in the writer. But
Yeah.
from start to finish, the original Wonder Woman film that Patty Jenkins did, and that one right there, I loved almost every element of the lead, especially considering, and unfortunately it is a bit of a trope, but it's just like, I'm not going to let you mansplain to me what it is that needs to be done because I know better. And that was one of the elements of that character in that movie that I just absolutely adored. So anyway, that's just me adding my 2 cents.
I guess I can put it this way. The strong female character, like when it becomes a girl boss, do you know what I mean? There's a girl bossification process of a lot of like these strong female characters. And you can tell they're written by men to appeal to men versus women. That's how I look at it. So I think that's why the term the strong female character got bastardized, and she's coming off more as a girl boss. So I've
So I'm
talked
gonna
about
put you
it
on the
many
spot
times.
here real quick. What do you think would be a better term to use then? Like if we were to just get rid of the term strong female character today, what would we want to call her instead?
Female character.
I was about to say the same thing. It's literally just a female character. Like you call male characters
Well,
male
and that's the
characters, all
thing.
female characters female
Female
characters.
characters, strong male character. I've never heard those
Yeah.
three words in a there's no female
Because-
doc, yeah.
Because when you say strong female character and then she is a character of color, then that becomes a completely different conversation. And that's where we have problems with characters of color, Black women specifically, being written to fit a certain kind of mold of what we consider the right mold for a Black woman. So that if you are soft or quiet, then you're not really a Black woman as a character. But that's not how life and humanity works at all.
Yeah, there are like
yeah.
so many stereotypes that like start to like mold around. Like I'm mixed and I'm like half Indian, so like there are so many stereotypes that like start to mold around your identity, that some people put you into a box or put a character into a box and say this is how this person's supposed to be, and if they're in that box, then therefore they are like a strong female character, or they're like a good representation of your ethnicity or religion or whatever. But that's not the case. Everything should be like equal. Nobody should be put into stereotypes. It doesn't make any sense.
People don't exist in a vacuum ever. Do you know what I mean? Everybody has their own thing. Yeah.
That's
And
fantastic.
if I was thinking about the question, and my mind wanted to go to like the Dora Milaje. I'm like, yeah, and they're cool and that's great. But the real strength for me, like Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury in Bridgerton.
I love.
Yes.
That's it. That's a perfect example. Oh, I got goosebumps. Sorry.
That's the strength. That is a strong female character for me. And I love the way that they are portrayed. There, and it doesn't have anything to do with what they can do physically.
Perfect.
I love the fact that you even mentioned Queen Charlotte. When I was putting the title card together, I was sitting back and listening because my wife loves Bridgerton, loves Queen Charlotte,
Taste.
and so like when we went on vacation, I had to stop at Bath and Body Works and buy all of the Bridgerton stuff, not knowing it would still be there. So I'm
Good
sitting there
job.
and I'm like,
Good job.
I'm thinking about
Good
female
husband.
characters that I would think would be a great example of some favorites, and she was immediately someone that came to mind just by how my wife described her. So no, absolutely.
Kate, even I
And-
enjoy Kate. She's my favorite right now of all the female, like of the younger female characters in the
Mhm.
3 seasons. Like she's so complicated and she's not always right, and she's just impulsive. And Kate Sharma is, she has my heart.
Yeah.
Bridgerton in general is so good.
I
Oh, and
I
you got
have an
next week
affinity
coming
for
up.
Charlotte. I love Charlotte. Because she is a Black woman and portrayed that way, but she actually is in real life. Like that is real. And the Lady Danbury character is also based on real women. So people think that these are just fictional characters that were just thrown into this world. No, there's a whole other world that we never talk about and we don't know anything about because people in the margins don't get talked about in history. But that's my history hat. But yes, I love Charlotte and I love Lady Danbury, and those are strong female characters for me because they use their intellect and their wit, and they're always 10 steps ahead of every man in the room.
Of everybody in that room.
Everyone in the room. But then each other. But then all of the men.
I love it. I love it.
In a world where they're supposed to be wallpaper. That's the beauty of it. They're supposed to just be pretty things that sit over in the corner and darn and, paint watercolor.
And it's so funny you say that there's supposed to be wallflower in this world that is specifically designed, like for women to have no agency. Their value is only marriage prospects. And then you have head of the state is a female. Her biggest confidant is a woman. And then flow of information within the society is coming from a woman. So it's,
I can't believe I'm contributing any part of a conversation regarding Bridgerton, but because I've never watched it, it's one of those things that I have just caught peripherally, kind of passing through the room while my wife is watching it, because she
You're
binges
missing
those
it.
things while my kids are in school. And
I have contact fandom too for my wife, so I get it.
there you go. And the thing is that one of the things that struck me the most was not the Bridgerton proper, but the kind of that special one-off, because when that happened and it came out, and it was kind of like the real story of what's going on with the king, and just the impact that has of a person that has to be a statesperson, but also there is the weight behind the crown and the real life as well. That really kind of redefined everything I had seen peripherally up until that point. And it was very, very impactful, just amazing. And the other thing I want to kind of say too, that I want to commend all of you, and I hate to use kind of buzz terms, but kind of not even speaking your truth, but speaking the truth, because unfortunately, I think that we are at least maybe 1 or 2 generations away from being able to get away from a lot of the, I don't want to say misconceptions, but I want to say the poor ways that characters are being written, because unfortunately there are the inherent stereotypes that have been drilled or trained into people, and no matter how good of a life I like to say I live, right? I grew up from the 70s through now. So I know that there is a certain level of inherent racism that I also still have to cope with. You know what I mean? So a lot of these things, the way people have grown up and the things that they were either taught to tolerate or to really have bad ideas on, you know, we're kind of at this wonderful precipice where I think we're going to start to see some of those start to get out of the way. But, you know, unfortunately, we're probably still a bit of a ways away, especially when you look at the political situation going on in America. But let's not get into that. Again, I see the stage. My apologies, but thank you for letting me pop in on that.
We have work to do.
Yeah. There's actually this moment in Doctor Who where they make a reference to the Queen, and it's like in this very unique moment where like a husband is being very misogynistic towards his wife, basically saying like she should be doing all the chores in the household, she should be cooking, etc. And the Doctor walks in and kind of stands up for the wife and says, well, would you tell the Queen to be doing those things? And the guy immediately backs off and says, no. So why are you doing those things? Why are you asking her to do that? She's basically the queen of the household. And I thought that was okay, like, yes, the Queen is in charge. So why are all of these female characters or like women in that time period being treated the way that they were, if that was ever, it was the case.
You know,
I'm so glad you referenced that episode because I've been trying to catch up to Doctor Who for the new season, and I just got through that episode. It's the one where they steal the faces. Absolutely love that episode.
Doctor,
like that man is like he's cartoonish in a sense, but there is a lot of people that probably got offended by him being like, what's wrong with that opinion? What's wrong with this kind of, and they do that a lot. And especially in recent stuff, like, whether people liked it or not, with She-Hulk hit on a lot of different things that are very common, like mentalities among men, like not having Bruce Banner, not having to worry about, everything around him and trying to help fix, Jennifer when she didn't need to be fixed. She had a better control over it because she dealt with the stress and the pressure and the anger on a daily basis. And people were thinking, well, that's too much. No, you don't know because your backyard never had to look onto that kind of lifestyle. I would say our world is bigger than our backyards. And that's what I think TV and media is doing now.
I mean, what we really need is we need for everyone to be better. And we need to get rid of old white dudes. That's what it all boils down to.
Wait, Will?
Yeah, I'm an old white dude too, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm there too. I'm with you. So, no, it was funny when we first started the show. Before we got on, JJ made a comment about, basically old guys with microphones, and it is a very big thing. And I think this is part of the problem that we kind of hit. And I thank you for helping me understand the definition of where you saw a strong female character coming from. Because again, I looked at my mom as the example for me, but again, there's stuff I have to learn and I have to understand. And I've been married for almost 16, 17 years now. And I'm still learning that I'm not doing as much as I could as a husband and, working to be better. And it's important that we have these conversations, and there's so many people that are echoing this backwards mentality that it's important to have voices that are against that and that are being willing to speak up and speak the truth. So
definitely. And also, you bring up She-Hulk, man. That show had one great line that really kind of sums all this up, which is the other lawyer from the same firm basically saying, just looks forward to being, and I'm paraphrasing and butchering it, but looks forward to not living in a world where she gets the question of what it's like being a successful female lawyer. So,
yeah.
But, allow us to mansplain even
away
more.
From that. Yeah, long ways away from that.
So
I still have to justify being a Star Wars fan, like, and liking Star Wars female characters, like, let alone being in a workplace and being all that. Like,
don't even get into the Star Wars fandom overall. I mean,
as good as we think it might be for a second, you see something good. There's like Jade said, so much work has to be done. So much.
So let's say this: you three, the reason why I even like reached out is, first of all, because I think you're amazing people. I, I've had the joy of meeting all of you in person, which is even more special because I mean, let's face it, the internet is a fantastic thing. It was what, 30 years ago we were telling people don't meet people from the internet, and now it's
It's true.
completely opposite. And I'm
It's
thankful
hilarious.
for it. Now, Jade, you and I met before we knew each other on the internet, but even though I'm glad to have gotten to know you. From our perspective, I think every content creator who has an opinion gets hate. But for you guys, what could you tell? Like, let's say me and Will, we're listening. We've got a good number of people that are watching the show right now, and then of course people are going to watch it after. What would you like to share of, as I mean, we're talking about from content creation to, advancing in your careers, or even working on a foundation where you're trying to help dispel, negativity and to encourage, representation in everything. What would you say your biggest struggles are, and what would you like people to understand is not something, like, let's say Will and I don't have to deal with it, but it's something that you guys do.
Everything,
And
dude.
I know, but I'm trying to like give an opportunity for, like, is there something that you would say other than just say, world do better? What would you recommend? Like, what would you recommend to people that are wanting to do something like you guys have done or are doing, and when they start facing that backlash, let's say that way?
Just keep doing it. I mean, there's so many different systems that are in place that will constantly tear you down. The first system, I think, for us is like being a woman. Then the secondary system is being like a woman of color. And under that is like, subsection of like being a mixed woman of color. Like there's so many different sections of what will tear you down via the algorithm, via people who are on the internet or in your comment section. But you kind of just have to like know that when you're making content, you're not making it for those people. You're making it for the people who might look up to you and say, oh my gosh, that person kind of looks like me and they're talking about all this and I like all this. So, oh my gosh, I can talk about all this. And they may even see all of those hate comments and they're like, oh, okay, you're pushing through this, even though this is happening. So I think, if there is a person who wants to do content creation, you kind of just have to like navigate that world, turn on the filters and just keep pushing, because you're ultimately making an impact, whether it's on yourself and like showing yourself that you can do it and push through, or like somebody else.
I want to say, just read a book, read Octavia Butler, and treat people as human beings that are here having an experience with other human beings. It's interesting. I had a woman that has been, I do a lot of community engagement event. We have a lot of educational things. It's a nerd organization. And I have a volunteer that has been with me since the very beginning. And she told me that her mom saw her dressed up for the tea party last year in her steampunk outfit, and that her mother was crying. And she was like, Mom, why are you crying? Do I look bad? And she said, no, you look beautiful. And she said, then why are you crying? And she said, because you finally found your people. And this is a woman that is like 60 years old.
Oh my God.
And is a Black woman from Omaha, Nebraska, that had always been the weird one. And now she's found people that look like her, that are all doing the same thing, and she's free to do those things. And it's amazing that I'm able to tell that story, that this is a woman that is 60 years old and her mother was in tears looking at her, finally thinking, you finally found your people. And then her mother said, are they Black people? She said, yes, Mom, a lot of them are Black people. And then she said, her mom said, ah! And she was crying even more. So I say that to say, this representation really does matter. And there are generations beyond me that were not able to, either because they are a woman or they're a woman of color, engage in these things that were not typically for women. And they are excited about what the possibilities are for current generations. And then you have my generation that's trying to get all the folks before we get too old and the knees are too bad to, to do all of the things that we want to do so that the next generation can see us enjoying it and know that you can do all of this and more and enjoy and be passionate about whatever it is you want to be passionate about. You love Star Wars? Great. You love anime? That's awesome. You love horror? I mean, you're on that by yourself, but that's awesome.
I agree. I agree with you.
I hate horror.
You
I
can
can't.
love it if you like it. I love it, and so that is why I do what I do, and that's where I find joy, is in people finding their home in these worlds. Because when you get, I used to play the World of Warcraft, and how many times did I have people tell me, "Oh, girls don't play WoW"? It's like, oh, okay, can you just help me kill that thing over there, because so I can get back, because I got to finish this quest. So we've come a long way, and there's a lot longer road to go.
Right.
But just treating people like they're human and enjoy whatever they want to. There's no rules.
I mean, as far as I don't know how to follow that up. That's such a beautiful story. Like with the thank you for sharing that. Seriously, that was really lovely. Content creation, like, it's not easy. It's not easy to put your face out there and talk about whatever you want to talk about, and things are coming your way, whether it's the comments or reply, whatever it is. So for me in the beginning, it was hard, especially like Star Wars fandom is putrid. It really is. It's been rancid for so long. It's still rancid. So I kind of transitioned out of it a little bit into other avenues of things that I like. I landed on like Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, because I'm a huge fan, obviously. So, and the way I guess I combat it, it's just a matter of time. You know what I mean? Like, you could kind of, there's a subset of fandom, I don't want to use that word, of people that you are not going to change your mind. Like, they're worthless, in my opinion. There's no point in arguing. There's no point in debating. There's no point like picking out a nasty comment and like replying to it with a well thought out response. Like, I am not going to give you that grace. I'm sorry. When you are utterly horrible, and this is how you talk to other people. This is how you talk about other people or other characters, or whether it be women or Black characters or queer characters. Like, we're done. Like, you kind of have to gauge what's coming at you in good faith. Is this being asked out of malicious intent? What is the intent behind this question? So you kind of learn that, like, even in person, when you're talking to people, you can kind of pick up on social cues and body language and the way they're talking. Like, are they asking this in earnest? Is this like a conversation to be had within the fandoms? And that's the only way that I have cultivated what I call a safe space for myself. It hasn't always been fun. Like, I've been in Star Wars fandom for a long time, even on those old like AOL chats and forums and Reddit and all of that, Tumblr, and you name it. It was a nightmare. It was not a lady-friendly space at all. So even like after like the sequel trilogy came out, like when the Force, I'll give you a perfect example of how like I fell into the red pill trap, how easy it is. And I can't imagine what it's like for a 14-year-old boy like out there. Like the Force Awakens, I went home, I watched it, I liked the movie. I go on YouTube, Rey is a Mary Sue. And there's all these dissertations, these essays on her being a Mary Sue. And I got into my head, oh my God, maybe they're right. Maybe she is a Mary Sue. Like, I was young when the movie came out. So like, it was so easy for me to fall into that trap. So I guess you have to find a way to combat like those echo chambers that have been so prominent for so long, particularly on like YouTube space, Reddit space. Like for me, TikTok was been saving grace in terms of like not hating the fandoms as much as I did. Do you know what I mean? So Tumblr was kind of there. That one was also kind of tricky and weird. But like YouTube and Reddit were all there was, and they were horrible. They were absolutely horrible spaces. And I think with TikTok's popularity, all of a sudden these different fandoms popped up, communities were created. Like you said, you shouldn't meet people on the internet, but within that community, you're like rushing to meet them. Like that's how it sort of became. So I guess when I make my videos, I try to be as confident as I can, especially like A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm going to take it for an example. It's very male-dominated fandom. Like most creators that I have followed over the years are men. Most of the Redditors that I have read their theories and talked with were men. So now I've seen more women talking about like Game of Thrones, that this world now than I have in my entire life of participating in this fandom.
I
That's
think
funny because when it comes to Game of Thrones, the only person that I know of as an authority would be you.
See,
Well-
I made it. Exactly. I made the point.
and you guys all really kind of hit on some important things. I don't really think they're in any way gender oriented, but I think one of the most empowering things we could tell anyone is the fact that when it comes to your social media, you need to set aside the concerns about other people, the concerns about what they think, because that's your space, and it is fine to be a benign dictator in that case. Block away, ignore, delete everything. And the other thing too that I think that we'll finally know if society is getting better is when we start to see all people getting equal treatment by the algorithm, if you will, whatever that algorithm is. And I say that because, you know, I follow, and I hope it doesn't come off weird me saying this way, but you know, like I follow all kinds of creators, but I also follow a lot of creators of color, and quite often there are complaints about the algorithm. And the saddest thought that I have every time I hear that, and if women talk about being suppressed or certain fandoms talk about being suppressed, it all boils down to the algorithm learns from the people that use it. So if people are saying I'm being suppressed, it means that unfortunately it is the same type of just wrong thinking that's feeding the algorithm and then perpetuating that along. And that's why I feel like when we start to see those grievances go away, we'll know maybe, just maybe, we're evolving.
Yeah, and let's face it, misogyny and racism go hand in hand in a lot of ways. It's the same backwards mindset, just targeted at a different thing. And you know, it's funny because even sitting here, like observing, like learning myself, like what, you know, I keep going back to me using the term strong female character and realizing like how backwards that is when it's, you know, when you say it's just a female character, and that's exactly what it is. Like, you know, and I think my whole purpose of this evening was to kind of like show that, you know, female characters don't have to be cartoonish, or they don't have to compensate in one way or another. Like, just be an honest representation of the, you know, the female life, and make these characters, you know, real without, you know, this hate. And again, like you talk about, you know, how Reddit and all these other spaces can be negative. I almost feel like the only reason why we realize how prevalent some of this backwards mindset is because now there's an echo chamber for them to be able to voice that.
Right.
And you get all this negativity. Like I remember, like I loved Phantom Menace when it first came out. That was what got me into Star Wars. And then you go back, you know, a couple years later when there's like, oh, why is you know, the Phantom Menace trash? And you know, why is this terrible? And why is that terrible? And it's like, yeah, you can dislike something, but the voices of dissent oftentimes magnify because there's a place for them to echo with between themselves.
I mean, the second you're bullying children, you bullied Ahmed Best, Jake Lloyd, even Hayden Christensen had to quit acting. Like Kelly Marie Tran, John Boyega, like these people are these are human beings that are actively being targeted for playing fake people in space. Like how, like, my God, get a job, go get a hobby, literally do anything else. Like you are bullying a grown man real man on the internet. Yeah. Like to a point where they have to deactivate their social medias. They don't want to come back to the franchise anymore. Like I can't imagine a more pathetic existence on the planet than that. Like to be that useless for the humanity that you have to actually bully strangers because they played a character that you didn't like, or the character said something you didn't like. To me, that is crazy, insane behavior. With those people, you are not having any good faith in earnest conversations. That's a block, 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 and get mean. They get mean, you get meaner. You have to cleanse your space of those things and those kinds of people, because they have existed in those echo chambers for so long. They still feel empowered by them. Not around here. You are messing with the wrong person. You're not going to have a voice here. I will not allow it. So that's just how I look at it.
I totally
That's
agree
all
with
you.
you, but they still have like a voice online, and I think that's like so sad, and the algorithm supports it. I have to like tie this back into my major real quick. I wrote a 25-page paper, and it was experimental, and it was also like research based on how the algorithm favors white male creators, no matter what they're putting out. And my focus was like on the shadow ban and how diverse creators and female creators are constantly being suppressed. Meanwhile, all of these problematic videos that come from white creators that you see over and over and over, where people are getting bullied, are being not only like allowed on the platforms but promoted. And I think it's a vicious cycle, and there has to be some way to actually, instead of us just blocking them, there has to be some way to get them off. They can't have this like voice that's like completely skewing the algorithm in a direction that shouldn't be happening.
That's completely valid, because I know, as a very avid TikTok user, I am constantly having to tell it I'm not interested in things that it is continuing to try and force on me, no matter how many times I've said not interested. You know.
Yeah, there's also a content creator that not too long ago was showing how they were adding, black centric hashtags to their videos, and it was giving them content warnings because of it. And it had nothing to do with anything other than them having these words that somehow TikTok was considering like dangerous when it didn't need to be.
Right. They are their guidelines, and the way they pick up flags, however you want to call it, is very strange. Like if I say a white character, a black character, I can't spell it out fully. Does that make sense? I have to like put a white circle or like a black circle or anything like that, because it catches it and it does something with it, and all of a sudden the views down. And you're right, you're absolutely right.
You could literally be on a TikTok live, and you could be talking about you're sorry, I'm blanking on what I'm trying to say here, but basically, let's say you're getting into something where you're trying to say all of the wrongs of views of people that are presenting anti-Semitic things, right? And they're buying into these, what's the word for a thing that isn't true, but it's a story that people believe? Conspiracy theories, right? And you say those two things together, and speech recognition will tag you, and they think you're spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and your live will get killed. Right. And so that's why
this day and time, we don't even know what people. So there's a lot of people who don't even know what the word anti-Semitic means. So
that's crazy. That is crazy.
It's a crazy time to be alive right now.
I apologize. I have to drop, but again, I want to thank you guys for all of us for sharing our ideas. You even see terminology. Guys, even though I was many years ago, I was told it's a genderless term. Yeah, really try and sell that one now. But I want to thank you guys.
I'm guilty of it too.
I want to thank you all for, sharing your perspective, because I think every bit of information that we get out to at least provoke thought is really important. And I really do hope that within our lifetimes, we all get to see a world where we're just discussing characters and not female characters, right? Where things are equal in all footings. And I'm hopeful we'll get there, but I don't know what else I can do other than when we have conversations like this to at least provoke thought. So thank you very much for sharing your time and your thoughts with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. This is great.
Absolutely. And with that said, let's go ahead and let's run down real quick and just tell everybody where you can be found. I do have some contact information in the description, at least on YouTube. It should go elsewhere, but Jade, would you start us off? Tell us where you can find you, or what you'd like to point us to what you're doing and what your cause is.
afroscapescurls.com, and afros, capes, curls at most every other thing, including TikTok, which I don't use because I don't have anybody that uses that to do that thing yet. So yes, afroscapescurls.com.
Perfect. And Sarah, movies and tea. Can you tell us a little bit more where we can find you?
Yeah, on Instagram, movies and tea, and also on YouTube, movies and tea. And then on TikTok, it's movies underscore and underscore tea, because movies and tea is owned by me, but I can't get into that account. So
Oh no.
And if you're confused about where to find Sarah and you didn't catch all of that, her Beacons link is in the description, so you can definitely find her there. And JJ, wrap us up here.
Yeah, you can find me most on TikTok under Lady Dragon JJ. That's where most of my stuff comes from, but I'm also on Instagram and on the X app under the same handle. I use mostly Twitter, X and TikTok as far as like communicating everything I need to. So yeah, find me there if you like nerdy things and sometimes some social commentary. So
awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for insight, for your we definitely have to have you back. Jade, of course, we've had you, and of course, JD, we've had you before. Sarah, we're definitely gonna have to have you back. Just saying, like, if I can convince my wife, I'm really trying to push her to wanting to make content because she's got some great opinions, and maybe Bridgerton's how I do it. Listen, I'm telling you, I'm just throwing it out there. Nerd Initiative is a lot of comic book content. We're doing wrestling. We're talking about movies and TV, but I feel like we're just lacking on things. I'm glad we're doing Star Trek. I'd love to see book talk and Bridgerton and all that stuff. It's all about anything you nerd out about, not just the typical mainstream things. So, if you're interested, I know at some point I've got a group that we're going to be talking about the Doctor Who episodes. I would not be against doing even facilitating a Bridgerton conversation. So,
yes.
And
one more thing, pollen season is coming in like 6 days. Internet is not ready. I'm sorry, it's gonna be nuts. I can't wait.
No, my wife is like, she asked me, she's like, would you watch it with me? I'm like, and my mindset is like, if I have to watch it, I have to watch it from the beginning.
Are you one of those yucky romance kind of guys?
Honestly, I don't mind the romance part. It's the moments where people get into situations. Like, I'll be honest with you, I have never watched the complete movie 27 Dresses, not because it's a romance. It's because that moment at the engagement party when she does that thing that like completely embarrasses herself, my anxiety goes through the roof and I have to walk away. Like that's my problem. I can't deal with high anxiety situations, whether it's my OCD or my Tourette's. I have to walk out. And usually when that happens, like the Barbie movie, when Barbie went and met the girl and they were like tearing her up at the school table.
Oh yeah.
I got up and walked out of the room. I walked out of the room, and then my son got up and goes, "Dad, I'm coming too." So it's I can't deal with anxiety. Romance, I don't mind. It's
you
fine.
watch superhero movies, like, and all the high stakes world ending shit.
It's like
that's
cringe.
different.
Are you talking about like cringe,
different.
embarrassing?
That's a better question.
Yeah, it's like it would not, like, Superman's about to, the world is about, like a comet is about to hit the earth. No stress or anxiety there. Superman misgenders somebody, I'm out. I'm gone. I can't deal with it. It's that emotional stuff that I can't deal with, where it's like you have to go back and backtrack. It's terrifying. So yeah, that's my secret out in the open. Everybody's gonna try to put me in awkward situations.
Might actually kill you, maybe.
Okay, so
all emotion.
There's a lot of plot and a lot of stakes and a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because like I was watching Prison Break, and the fact that it kept going wrong every single time, I gave it up. Like I couldn't do it. I'm done.
Yeah, no,
so
I get that. I get that.
But yes, thank you all for joining. Those of you who are watching, you can, whether it's live or it's after on the recording or in the audio version, please be sure to check them out. The descriptions are the links are in the description. We'd love to have you guys on again. We never scratch the surface of what we can talk about this topic. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, please remember to check out Nerd Initiative on all of the different things, nerdinitiative.com. And we would love to have you. If you're interested in making content or whatever, you can always drop us a comment in our forums on the contact page of the website. But with that said, have a wonderful evening. Hope you enjoy Doctor Who, Bridgerton, and whatever else is coming out. It's
House
a
of the
weird
Dragon
time to be
season
alive,
2.
but there's lots of entertainment coming. Absolutely. And have a wonderful evening.